Stephanie. Welcome back to another episode of Mama's Messy Podcast. We are now at episode 7. I am so grateful and blessed to bring this episode to you. It's the first time that we go on video. All right. The nerves were like on 10,000, I'm going to admit, but the conversation was so good. So the mom that I decided to bring as my first guest on the Mom and His Messy podcast, her name is Rebecca Sanchez. She is from my home church, TCLV, so Transformation Church of Lehigh Valley. And the conversation is just so real and raw, and it's deep and it's good. So I just want you guys to enjoy this podcast. Let us know where you're tuning in from. If you have not already, like and subscribe and follow our page. Either if you're on YouTube, well, YouTube is going to be for the video, but if you're hearing this for the first time on Spotify, it's going to be audio only. But this is the first time that we do a video recording for this podcast. So it is super exciting to bring this to you. And I probably worked up the nerve to do so because I'm bringing a guest on board, because honestly I probably wouldn't have done video without her here, but I'm so excited. So I have her give herself an introduction in the beginning of the video, in the beginning of our recording, and I am grateful that she came and said yes. So Rebecca, if you're seeing this, which I'm sure you will go back and replay as you said, thank you for coming and saying yes to me, saying yes to the assignment, and thank you for just giving us such insight on the topic that we discussed today. So it was super great hearing from you and learning from you and knowing that we're kind of on the same page, and so many other moms are probably on feeling the same way as well. So moms, you're tuning in right now, comment, say hello, but enjoy this episode. Grow, learn, share. Please tell us about your experience. If you want to answer any of the questions that I give to Becky on the recording, please share your experience as well with any of those topics. We would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from you. But without further ado, enjoy episode 7. Our topic is going to be about when your patience is tested. So it gets real fast, let me tell you. But enjoy. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Hello, welcome. This is our first video recording for the Mom and His Messy podcast. We are on episode 7, y'all. Thank you for joining us. Un aplauso. We are super excited to be here, but I'm really nervous on top of that. This is why I don't do video. I'm a mess. I think I did like 3.
Tell me about it. It's crazy. And I'm the invited guest.
All right, so let me introduce our beautiful guest, Miss Rebecca.
Hello.
So Rebecca and I met in church like how many years ago? Like 5 years ago, I want to say.
I've been at, formerly known as Third Day for almost 10 years already.
Really?
Yeah.
But I don't think like we knew each other.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think we became more of a friendship probably like 5 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I would say like friendship started about 5 years ago, pre-COVID.
Yes.
Pre-pandemic. And she hasn't been a mom as long as I have been, but we have very similar personalities, which is why I wanted to bring her on my podcast, because I just wanted to see how different we think about mom life and just have a real life conversation about certain things that we go through as moms, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're gonna get started, but I love Rebecca. Rebecca, if you want to introduce yourself, like tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So like Steph said, my name is Rebecca. Mostly everybody knows me by Becky, but Rebecca's fine. I am 31 years old. I am a mother of 2. I have a 9-year-old son and a 1-year-old son. I'm a boy mom. What can I say about? Yeah, boy mom.
I got 2 boys too, but I'm a total of 3.
Yeah, I stopped that too. I did the right thing. No offense.
Good job, girl.
After the second child, I was like, yeah, we're not doing this again. That second child is crazy.
Stop. Oh my God. Okay.
Aside from that, I mean, I am a medical interpreter as a profession. I serve with Steph at our home church at TCLV. And I'm super excited to be here. We'll talk more about momhood and all that fun stuff. Yeah. But I'm as transparent and as honest as they come. Yes. So that's what you're gonna get here today.
Which is why she's here. So one of the other reasons why I wanted her as my first guest is because I know that she will not sugarcoat anything.
Absolutely not.
And so that's 100% me. I do not sugarcoat. I will give it to you real, raw, relevant, even if you don't like it. And it's okay.
That's totally fine.
It's okay.
It's totally
okay.
Fine.
All right. All right. So first, let's introduce our topic. So our topic today is going to be when your patience is tested.
Every day.
Every day. Or every minute. So first of all, what do you think about when you hear that patience is a virtue? Like, do you really think of it as a virtue, right? Or what does that mean to you when you hear that? So ponder on that as you listen to us talk about it. But you as a listener into the podcast, like, what do you think personally when you hear somebody tell you, well, patience is a virtue, and they're talking to you in your most trying time, right? As a mom. So when I went back into the word, when it talked about patience and the scriptures that spoke to my life the most when it came to patience in my life was 2 Peter 3:9. It says, the Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. So if he's as patient with us as he is, waiting on us, and we a mess, like a hot mess. So we be a hot mess. So if he's as patient with us and wanting us to be saved and coming to repentance, how should we show that to our children? Because he's our father, our spiritual father. How should we show that to our kids? Like, that's one thing that really touched me as a mom. I'm like, oh Lord, I gotta work on this. The next one was Ephesians 4:1-3. And it says, as a prisoner for the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. So not just be patient, but be patient and loving. Yes. At the same time. Okay, at the same time. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. So the Holy Spirit is what brings us peace. It is peace. So if we're going to be walking in the Spirit, right? Yeah. Then
it's we need of the Spirit.
Fruit of the that's my that brings me Okay, so Galatians 5:22-23. It says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. So I was looking and I was like, okay, I don't see patience anywhere there, right? And I was looking this up and I'm like, I know patience is a fruit of the Spirit. Like I learned this in Bible study class. Like I was like, I know it is. So forbearance is patience. Yes. It's the same thing. Yeah. So for those of you that do not know the word, that is what forbearance is.
We learn together.
We learn, we teach each other. All right, so let's get started. Those were the words that spoke to me. I hope they speak to you too. If you have questions on it, talk to her. She's the minister.
We all in this journey together.
Because me, I just be like, oh Lord, you talking to me. Okay. I need to pray. No, let me stop.
We all need to pray.
Oh my goodness. All right. So my first question to you, right?
She is a question.
I did. I can't question. But wow. I can't do something.
No, you did. But like no pressure at all.
You ready?
Yeah,
you can ask me.
I'm as ready as I could possibly be in this. This is so uncomfortable for me. I'm usually never like behind the camera like this.
I feel the same. This is why I was like, you sure?
But estamos aquí.
Llegamos. Okay. So the first question I have for you is, what's the first thing you do when you're in face of a situation with your kids that your patience is at the last straw? Like you've utilized all the patience in the bottle and there's no drops left.
I mean, I can sit here and probably fish out a very perfect answer. And try to sound like this, oh my God, she's such a good mother. But that's not me. And one thing I have learned about my journey in motherhood, and that has honestly changed my entire perspective on motherhood and has honestly changed my life, is to show myself grace. So when I'm low in patience and I feel like I'm at that rope's end where I'm like, okay, I just can't do it. I just remember I'm human.
Mhm.
And I remember that at the end of the day, there's grace towards me.
Mhm.
Because the same way that Christ loves me, and this is where, I say it's like Christ because I see Christ in my child so much in the way he forgives me, in the way he loves me, even despite that I just yelled at him 10 seconds ago. And the fact that like my child will embrace me despite the fact that I just hurt his feelings. And we do that to Christ so much. And yet we forget, like, oh my gosh, I did that to my child and he still loved me. And we're like, oh no, God would never love me. But it's like, no. So sometimes we see Christ in our children.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, basically, what I got from your answer is that when you run out of patience and you see yourself come out of that, you give yourself grace.
Yeah.
To just be human.
Absolutely.
But you come back as well. You're like, okay.
No, absolutely. I
You
don't
come
stand
back.
in that moment.
Yeah.
One thing that I've implemented with, especially my oldest, I have a 9-year-old, like I said, is I have learned to apologize to him.
That's so big.
I have learned to, and I'm huge on this one. And I taught my child this, that if you're gonna say sorry, you have to say the reason why. We're not just apologizing just for fun. I want to recognize what I did that upset you. And the same way that I expect him to do it, I have to do it first because I'm modeling this for him to then be able to then know what to do and how to do it. So if my child, if I don't know, for whatever reason, I told him to clean up his shoes and he didn't, which I'm huge on, and I yell at him, I'm gonna tell him the reason why I yelled at you was why? Because you didn't pick up your shoes. I didn't just yell at you because I felt like yelling at you. Or whatever the case may be. The same way I apologize to my child, he has now learned to apologize in return.
That's awesome.
And it's reciprocal. We're like an apology in motherhood is such a healing and it's such a liberating thing where you could show your child, mommy's not perfect.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
So
mommy's human.
Question to you on that, like piggybacking off of that, it's not on my notes or anything, but were you shown that in the Hispanic household that you were raised in?
So my childhood was very different, I would say. I grew up in a half Christian, half non-Christian home. So my mother has served the Lord my entire life, an absolute prayer warrior, and just an absolute woman of God. My father didn't come to Christ till I was almost 18, I believe. Like almost. I got married very young. I got married at 19. So I was nearly almost out of the house. Yeah. So I didn't experience my father figure as a Christian for the majority of my childhood.
Okay.
So that in me made me lean towards my mom. So in most homes you have daddy's girl. I was a mama's girl.
Yeah.
Because and I don't know. I just leaned towards my mom. So I saw the forgiveness in my mom through just there's so many moments I could just mention.
So like you're portraying that side of your mom, and
Yes.
since you feel like you're giving that back to
Yes, so
kids
like
at
the
same
forgiveness
time.
that I learned from my mom through her relationship with Christ.
That's awesome.
Because at the end of the day, my dad not serving the Lord caused my mom to forgive my dad for a lot of things, caused our home to look at forgiveness through two different perspectives, and I had I had both options.
Yeah.
And I leaned more towards Christ, and I'm very grateful that my mom always instilled that in me. Because now I look at it and I'm like, I'm so grateful for those morals and those little things that I now am able to share with my kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So when I think about when I just think back about my patience, so my patience has grown throughout the years. And it's crazy because a lot of people will tell me, you're so patient. And I'm like, where?
No, I'm not.
Where? Where do you see the patience? You know what? I'm so glad you see that in me, but I want to see it
myself
because. And then after they say that, I thank God because I'm like, Lord, I don't see myself as a patient person, but I thank you that somewhere I am patient because other people see it.
Yeah.
So,
but I feel like that's as a mom, we don't give ourselves enough credit for the things that we do.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that other people have to call us out on it.
Right.
It's unfortunate.
So like the fact
we're
that
so consumed in the wrong things that we do that we don't ever notice, like, wow, I was a great mom today. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I might have lost my patience. Yeah, I might have probably snapped a few times on my kids. Mm-hmm. But my kids come home and they have a great home. They have a bed to sleep. Like, we don't give ourselves enough credit to acknowledge that we're flawed, but we're great at being moms.
And that's that grace you're talking
Yes,
about as
and
well.
yeah,
Yes. So for I think when people say that to me, it brings me back and it makes me feel like, okay, so I am patient in some levels. But now that my kids are older, see, when my kids are that age,
yeah,
it's different.
absolutely.
So when my kids were that age, I definitely
Snap.
yeah
Hallelujah.
snapped.
And not in the godly.
I snapped. I stopped. I snapped like multiple times a day. But now, I mean, I lose my patience now, but it's different because they're older, so they can understand me in a way where I will literally tell them, I will voice it. I'll be like, my patience is done.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
so. If you don't want to see the
Yeah.
other side of me, I suggest you walk away.
And I think that's the beauty of being in this journey of motherhood is that you have your seasons.
Yeah.
Where like I look at my child now, and I'll speak more of my 9-year-old because obviously my 1-year-old. I mean, who he tests my patience? Hello, child. If you ever met my youngest, he's the santito in public. He's the same. He's the same. But
he's gonna be the best kid ever. Like he's gonna take care of you, house and all.
But I look at my 9-year-old and I look at it as an opportunity to mold our relationship for the future. Because boys are difficult. I can speak on being a boy mom. It's a different perspective. It's a different field, and I don't know what it is to have a girl, but I was a daughter.
Girl, the patience is on another level on a girl, though.
No, it is. That's what I'm saying. The patience for boys is more. They're reserved. They're held. They're more. They're more like to themselves. So the patience that I need to have with my son is how do I nurture him where he could feel open, where he could feel that mommy's a safe place.
Yeah.
Girls just pour out. We're emotional. We just want to talk. We just want to go and things. Boys, you have to really be intentional, and that takes patience to get them to talk, to get them to express themselves, to get them to be vulnerable. We live in a society where that's not something that is normal.
Yeah.
We haven't normalized that. And as moms, and I'll speak to the boy moms, as boy moms, we should be taking advantage of these little moments that we have with our sons and love on them, embrace them, show them that, it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to talk. It's okay to have feelings as a man, as a boy, as a man. And it's hard and it's frustrating because you want them to, just pour it all out like most girls do. And as a boy mom, it looks totally different.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about my experience with my daughter because my daughter is completely opposite of what a normal girl is. It's like
she's the exception.
She really is because I see other girls with their moms and they have that. Yeah. But it could also be because I'm like that. So I was the kind of person when they were younger. So I don't express my emotions really well unless it's a happy emotion.
I mean, I don't either.
So she never saw that side of me. So she didn't know how to express it to me either. And so like when we went through this a lot, but yeah, I feel bad, but I've had to have a lot of patience with her when it comes to her wanting to talk to me. So that's a different kind of patience where I'm like, I want to know what's happening. So my question
to you is then, did someone have patience with you?
Oh, okay. So let me think. So my mom is a very patient woman, but I feel like I saw that side of her when I was younger. When I hit my teens, she was not patient. Okay. Yeah. And I feel like I'm opposite. I feel like raising my kids like
we're younger because you wish you would have had that.
I don't know. I just think it's just like I just live in that moment and I was just frustrated. Like imagine raising 3 toddlers by yourself. It's like hard. Your head is spinning, right? So I think I was just out of order. Trying to figure this out. No, let me stop. So it was super hard to have enough patience for all of them. Yeah. So I felt bad because when I gave my patience to one and then it ran out. And so when the other one hit the button, it was like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
So I have learned also throughout that time where I felt like I wasn't patient with my kids and I felt like I was always on my last straw.
Yeah.
Like I've learned to go to a secret place and breathe.
Absolutely.
And like recalibrate.
I'm an advocate for that.
Recalibrate. Like breathe. Just, breathe, take a moment for yourself, put on whatever music you need to put on, cry whatever you need to cry, and come back and then like just kind of like
Just walk
refill your
away,
cup, right? Because you feel like you're constantly
Yes.
giving.
It's exhausting.
Yeah,
Being patient is exhausting.
it is. It's super exhausting. And I just feel like sometimes we don't think about that because we're living life.
Yeah.
And we're going. I see some moms that are always on the go with their kids, and I'm like, how do you even do that?
I bless your soul if you're that mom. Kudos to you. That is not
For real. It's not me either
That's not
because
me.
I'm like when I did that with my kids, I felt like I was all over the place. And I did that a lot with my kids when they were younger, when they had sports.
I feel like we do that, not we, but and this is me just making an assumption, and I apologize in advance if anyone takes this out of context. But I feel like people do that to avoid confronting the elephant in the room,
Yeah.
or to avoid the hard conversations, or to actually fill voids. As you know, there's such things as childhood traumas and things that like, oh, I didn't have this as a child. I'm gonna force this upon my kids, and it's like your kids aren't.
They're different.
Your kids aren't punching bags for the things that you didn't have as a child or your emotions.
Mhm.
Like, don't let that out on them.
Mhm.
One thing that I really worked on as a young mom, I had my first child at 23, was removing that comparison thing. Like, I don't compare myself to other moms.
So real.
I
Me
don't.
either.
Because I know that my kids are a gift from God to me.
Mhm.
God is letting me borrow them.
Yeah.
And He found me fit enough to be their mom, which makes it the perfect relationship.
But let me tell you, I love that you're there right now because it took me a while to get there. So when I had my kids, I wasn't serving God. So I had my first kid at the age of 17. We had my daughter. And I don't know if you heard my first episode where I talk about my background, but I was in an abusive relationship. So patience was not even a thing.
Non-existent.
It was non-existent. So like I snapped all the time. I had to learn to come out of that. And who was I as a mom to them when I wasn't in that frustrated
Yeah, in that space.
Yeah. So one thing that God taught me, I want to say God taught me because I did not learn when I was first a mom, I didn't implement this. So
Yeah.
obviously I didn't remember this.
Yeah.
And my dad never had patience. If it was one thing that he did not have was patience. Yeah. So he always acted out of like anger.
Yeah.
So that's where impulsiveness. So that's where I give myself that grace where I've learned to breathe and not act out of anger. Because when they were younger, I did. When they were younger, I snapped at them all the time. And I think that's why sometimes my daughter and all of my kids, I want to say all my kids, but my oldest son, he's more open with me than any of the other ones. But all of my kids have a problem expressing to me because I was always snappy. But you can like outgrow that. You can outlearn that.
Don't get me wrong. I haven't always been this way. It took a lot of intentionality. It took a lot of discipline.
Right.
When I first became a mom, you're figuring it out. You don't know what you're doing.
Girl, but I feel like you've always been patient. Like I see you with your kids.
No, absolutely not.
But like I've seen
If
her.
you know me,
But this is what I mean
outside
about
this realm, you know that is not me. Like for me, I'm very set in my ways and certain things. Like I like certain things a certain way at home, just little things. I'll use an example. I love the bed to be made right in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Like little things like that, right? And I was trying to teach my child, like, okay, like these are things that you need to do because that's just the way mommy likes it. And I would lose my patience if I would wake up and I see him playing and he doesn't have his bed. And I was like, what are you doing? You
like spilled milk.
Yeah, like you know that that's supposed to be done as soon as you wake up. And I remember, these are things that I was brought up. My mother was raised me like this. My mom was very meticulous, and just the way the house was, and the way we did things Saturday morning, everything was like a regimen. So I have that from my mom, and then I tried to implement that in my child as I was, raising him, and I realized it doesn't work. I need to be patient. I need to figure out how he works. How does he function? What works for him? And that is probably the most frustrating process to go through when you're so set in your ways and you're so like determined it's gonna go this way and this way and this way, and your kid's like, yeah, we're not doing that, mom. We're not doing this. If you love me, you're gonna be patient and you're gonna figure this out with me. Yeah. And then it slows you down, and that's the part of motherhood that you're like, I didn't sign up for this. That's slowing down where you're like, all right, let me meet you where you're at. So instead of me yelling at my kid, why didn't you make the bed? hey, buddy, let's make the bed together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Or
like,
how about, have you ever fell into the trap of doing it yourself because you don't want to deal with it?
oh, absolutely.
So like I feel like I'm more that than let's do it together. I'm more like get out, I want to do it.
That's the
But
lack of
that's it is.
Yes.
So it's crazy because it's shown differently.
But this is why I say motherhood is so Christ-like.
Mhm.
Because we're called to meet our kids where they're at. We're called to love them. And Christ is like that with us.
Yeah.
Every single day. And I don't mean to be super spiritual, but that to me has like literally it's healed me in motherhood. It's healed me to just forgive myself for all the mistakes that I made, to look at my kid and be like, man, yo, like I'm so blessed to have my kids love me despite, because at the end of the day, your kids see the ugly, the one that nobody sees, the one that you don't want to talk about, the one that you hide behind the closed doors of your house. Your kids see that. They're not crazy. They know, like, mama got issues. She's not crazy. Like, it is what it is, you know? And for this, the fact that I could be 100% Becky to my son
Yeah.
makes me feel like I'm safe with him. The same way he feels safe with me. He doesn't judge me. He doesn't
That's
look
so
at me
good.
like I'm less than, because I've built that relationship through the patience, with showing him, with nurturing him, with showing him grace.
Yeah.
I've been, you know, this past year for us was really hard. Like we went through a very difficult moment as a family, and honestly my patience was tested to the point where I literally was gasping for air. I remember in my bathroom gasping for air, sobbing with my mom.
Wow.
Because I literally told her, I'm like, I don't think I could do this as a mom. From a mom, like my mom hearing me say that was just like, I remember my mom leaving just
Oh
like,
my gosh, you saying that, I gotta tell you when it's finished, but
like weeping. And I remember like, I can't do this by myself. Like,
Mhm.
and I remember just giving myself a moment to be human and remembering
Yes.
like, you know, God equipped me for this. I'm more than capable. I'm a great mother. I didn't fail. I didn't make a mistake. And I remember looking, and after this was, trust me, this was after a complete mistake that I had made with my child that till this day, like I'm free from it and I have healed. But if I could go back, I would.
You would want to change
I would
that.
change it absolutely 100%. But I remember going back into his room and, you know, he was sitting on his bed and I looked at him and I remember saying, I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
I'm so sorry that that reaction came out of mommy.
Mm.
And I remember,
Girl.
and I'm like, oh, you're getting emotional. I remember looking at him and just tears coming out of his eyes. And he looked at me and was like, it's okay.
Girl, he's so little. What they say?
And I looked at him and I'm like, and I just felt the peace of God in such a way where I'm like, oh, thank you, Lord, because you show yourself how real you are in all of the crazy, chaotic moments that we go through. And it's like, this is motherhood.
Yeah.
When I can go to my kid after I've lost all the patience in the world, after I have nothing left, and my kid literally
You're sucked dry at that point.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome. That's like that makes you like breathe.
Yeah. It makes you realize like
Mhm.
it's not the end of the world.
Mhm.
Like you could lose your patience, and that's the one thing. Like if you take anything from our conversation, to every mom out there, you could lose your patience and still be a great mom
Mhm.
and still be the best mom. And it's gonna be okay. You know, apologize.
Yes.
Embrace your kids, love on your kids.
I think that's the biggest thing though. Like when you lose your patience, don't think it's okay that whatever reaction came out is okay.
No.
Because I think that's where when I was raised was a huge issue where my parents didn't apologize. They didn't know
And that's
what
something
apologizing is.
Most families
A
don't
lot
instill.
and I feel like a lot of Hispanic families.
It is,
are like that, right?
it is definitely a culture thing. You know, we live under that rule, like lo que pasa en casa se queda en casa.
Yeah.
Los asuntos personales no se discuten. Spanish, what happens at home stays at home. Personal things we don't discuss.
Yeah.
And an apology in many cultures is a form of weakness.
Yes.
It's not something that we are told to embrace. We're not. It's not something we're told to practice because it shows that you're weak, that you're not strong, that you're vulnerable. That you know mistakes aren't something that you're supposed to be boastful about. And if you would look at it through a different lens, you would see how powerful it is.
Yeah.
How freeing it is. How much weight it lifts off of your shoulders as a parent.
Yes.
To apologize.
Yes, because then you're not bringing it into the next conversation
Absolutely.
or the next thing they did or the next day. Because I felt like anger lingered in my house a lot when I was younger because I was always mad at the fact that they lost their cool and they didn't know how to bring it back. They just covered it up by let's go out here, let's do this, and then you're still mad at them.
Yeah.
Because of how they treated you. So I've learned through all of that and bringing myself back to what I lived through, I'm like, okay, I don't want to be like that with my kids.
Listen, even last week.
Yeah.
Last week I had a really rough week. Just a bunch of stuff. And I remember, and going to what you're saying, how you felt some type of way because you felt like at the end of the day, like this had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And I had, and I don't consider it a mistake, but I saw myself acting out to my oldest in a certain way because I felt some type of way towards somebody else, and I had lost my patience towards that situation, and he just became the repercussion of it. To the point where then I had to catch myself, and I noticed he was afflicted. I noticed that he was down, and I literally stopped there. I was like, "Hey, buddy," I was like, "I'm sorry, mommy just had a rough day today. I didn't mean to lash out on you like that." And he just looked at me and was like, "I don't know," just being himself. But it like you have to be intentional to acknowledge when you're wrong, and not look at it like, "Oh, I'll just get to that later." No, address it there, because in that moment is when you remembered, and in that moment is when you took out of your whole frustration to pause and give your kid the validation and give your child the place that they deserve.
Yeah.
Like, they're children, but they're so human. They have feelings.
Yeah. And they carry this.
They just as this.
Like, you as an adult now, how much have you carried because your parents didn't show you patience or grace or whatever it may be? So as a parent, a lot of times we have to bring that back to reality. And we're just full of emotions, And
so are they.
And we just come out, I'll be coming out of left field half the time. I'll be like, oh, y'all want to catch me today, but I'm honest with them and I tell them. I've noticed that if I'm honest with them and I tell them ahead of time, that they'll know.
It avoids a chaotic mess.
Yeah.
And I think something that we also have to understand is the same way we need to be patient with our children are being patient with us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, I always wonder, like, and I should probably ask my kid this when I get home, like, do you, like, how patient are you with me? Like, at what point that you're like, I'm so sick of this woman? like, because as moms, sometimes, like, how come we can be sick of them, but they can't be sick of us?
They do get like that. But and when they're older, like the ages of my kids, they will express it. Like, my teens, they're like, they will tell me straight to my face, why you gotta be like that? And they'll be like, no, not that. Or I'll walk in the room and they look at me like, I already know. Sorry. I already know when I walk in the room, but they just stare at me like, yes. Here she goes. And I'm like, oh, okay, bye. And I leave. But yes, oh my God, this is so good. So let me see what my next question was for you. I think we kind of answered this a little bit. I feel like it's all intertwined though. It's coming good. My next question was, how do you get yourself through those moments when you feel like you can't take any more irritable events or people that day? Which you talked a little bit about that, but what I mean by irritable events is like, I don't know if you go through this with your kids right now, but the discipline that other organizations put on you because of what your child did over there. So I'm talking about school mainly, or it could be church too. Because kids go to Sunday school, whatever, they act out, whatever maybe they expect you to handle at a certain level. So there was a time, and there's still some times in my life right now where I will get phone call after phone call. I literally just went live on my little page about that. Awesome. Girl. Okay. So like phone call after phone call. Yeah. And it's different. Okay, so like I got one phone call for one kid. I got two phone calls for the other kid. The other kid didn't do anything wrong, but I'm just irritated from everything that already happened with all the other kids. Yeah. So how do you get yourself through those moments where you find yourself done with everything that's happening through the day and you just want to get through the day? Like, do you recognize it? Do you recognize it when it's happening? Or do you recognize it after? Like, how do you handle that?
I think sometimes I recognize it once it's too late.
I'm the same, so I'm just curious.
Like last week, I got a phone call from my kid's school, and I'm like, I can't never. Not mine. So I'm like, hi, they're like, is this Mrs. Sanchez? I'm like, absolutely, you reached me. And it was the principal, and I'm like, no, principal. I'm like, I got the absolute worst. I'm like, my kid must have got bullied. He must have got something must have happened. And I kid you not, I can't make this up. They're like, yeah. We just want to let you know that your child was throwing apples in the cafeteria. I'll tell you, I had the same exact response. I was like a reaction. I was like, you know what, sir? I am so sorry. I will address that when we.
This is so good.
I will address that when we get home. I kid you not. I hung up the phone and I just busted out laughing. I couldn't even tell. Like, why you calling me my apples? Why didn't you just handle like and it's crazy because I was having a terrible day at work. Like it was a rough day, and the person comes out and me was thinking my kid is throwing apples, and I had two options. I could have had no patience and flipped out on my kid like that's embarrassing. How are you throwing apples in the store? What's wrong with you? Or I could have been like, all right, Becky.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Long story short, we get home and he's like, "Hey, mom," I pick him up. He's like, "Hey," I'm like, "How was school?" He's like, "Oh, it was great." I'm like, "Was it? Tell me about your day. Like, tell me what happened." And in his mind, like, I don't think he knew that the principal had called me because he was convinced that he had a spectacular day.
He was throwing apples.
Yeah.
He was doing all the things.
So then I was like, Liam, I'm like, so tell me about this incident about you throwing manzanas.
I can't.
And he was like, but in that moment, it like turned a switch because I think that he was expecting me to lash out, for me to have no patience with the situation, like have no tolerance for it.
Or like right when you pick him up, be like,
yeah, like that's cool. Yeah, and I'm like, and I could have because I was having a rough day. Like I was, like my job is very demanding and just certain moments just emotionally draining at times. And I literally I was like, no, I'm not gonna act like that. I remember going home and I was like, we're gonna sit down at the table, and I was like, listen, buddy, I'm like, what you did was wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, and this is where words have power. And I looked at him and I was like, ask me how mommy reacted when we found out. And he was like, no, I don't want to know. I was like, no, ask me how I reacted. And he was like, what? And I was like, I don't know. And his freedom in that moment was so evident. Like he felt like he had like conquered the world because the reaction was totally different. Like most moms probably would have flipped out, like, oh, you embarrassed me, the teacher would call me. But I showed him like at that moment, it's like, you made a mistake. Let's not do it again. But I'm not condemning you for that. I'm not gonna sit here and yell at you and just be angry towards what you did. Yes, I didn't like it, but it's okay. Mm-hmm. So I think it's about as parents, and this is a general statement because it's not just moms. I think it's just understanding that like you have to self-analyze yourself and realize what space are you in? Where are you at? Where are you at currently, and where do you want to be? I could have been miserable all day and given my kid that energy of being miserable and having a rough day, or I could have been like, you know what? No, it's fine. Mm-hmm.
Like, so that day you had irritable factors at work, and he was also one of the irritators.
I mean, right? I got interrupted in my busy work day to attend a phone call. My kid throwing apples. Like, what?
Oh my God, you can't make it up. You can't.
Boys.
So I'm not as great as you. I gotta say, you're great because I'm not as great as you. I am like, this is why I don't say that I have patience, because I think a lot of people see me having patience, but if I'm going to be 100% honest, I'm probably more patient with my kids outside of home than I am inside my home. So
I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see you not being the only one. And like I said, I'm not perfect, and there's moments where
that was great. But that was great because like you were able to just take that moment of freedom, like you freed yourself.
I did.
You.
Oh no, not today.
You were like, not today. But you recognized it. That's awesome. Like I think I have had to learn that so much, and I don't know if it's because I don't know why, but I don't know if it's because I didn't see it often.
And that's what I wanted to bring that up in this discussion. I think one of the very important factors, and not just embracing patience in motherhood, but just embracing the beauty of it in general, is having mothers in your circle.
Mothers that don't try to act like they perfect.
Yeah. Well, let's make that clear. We are not perfect here. But like having real moms, like having girls that like and women that you could relate to, like like just girl, my kids. Yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what do
Let's talk about
it. Like, having just normal conversations, that's number one. And number two is self-care. Mm-hmm. You can't be good for your kids if you're not good for yourself.
Yeah.
And I am the biggest advocate for me time.
And that gives you it gives you, I don't know how it does it, but I think we feel like more fresh, that we'll have more patience because we
Absolutely.
took care of ourselves.
Because you're not overwhelmed.
Yeah,
You're not
over-
frustrated.
exactly.
You've been able to kind of just like sit in the moment and just kind of just relax, let it
Yeah.
all go. Clean
Yeah.
out the slate of all the mess and all the stuff of the day. And when you go to your kids, you're not going loaded already. Like,
Oh my God.
like I look at
yes.
it like a table. You keep piling things up on the table, keep piling things up the table. You have no space to invite anyone to your table.
Mhm.
The moment you clean out your table, you make room. You make room for the conversations. You make room. You have to declutter. You have to declutter your
Oh my
mind.
gosh,
You have to declutter
absolutely.
your emotions. You have to declutter everything, and then embrace those moments. That's one thing that I'm still learning to implement, and I don't get it perfect every time. And there's many times where I mess up completely, but I'm learning to address certain situations after I've decluttered, not in the moment that it's cluttered.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it makes such a difference.
Yes.
Because then you have the patience to sit there and actually conversate or converse. It's conversate's not a word, I learned that. To converse, I did. You have the patience to receive the criticism, the constructive criticism, because you're not on edge.
Yes.
And you look at it and you hear it and you're like, wow, that person is, yeah, that's right, that's true. How can I work on that? How can
Yeah.
so I think it's just being intentional on those things.
Oh my gosh, yes. So I was just reading a little bit, trying to figure out where I'm gonna go next with this conversation. But I have in my notes here that it has to be a daily thing that you refill.
Yeah.
You can't rely on your patience from yesterday.
Nope.
Or last week, because you have to give yourself grace and give them grace every day. And it doesn't come easy, and it has to be intentional.
Yeah.
It has to be conscious. You have to be conscious about it. Like, okay, this is a new day. I'm not gonna bring into today what happened yesterday. Or yesterday's, like, you pissed me off yesterday. Like, I'm mad at you.
Yeah.
Still, like, why are you still mad at them about what
feel like-
happened yesterday, when you want to show them forgiveness?
Yeah.
And I think this is big. I want to say that this is big with us, in a sense, because we're Christians.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how other moms would handle it that are not Christian. I would say that if I was in the world, I would not be as patient as I am right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I'm conscious
at the end
about
of the day,
it. Yeah.
patience is a characteristic of Christ.
Yeah.
Because he's patient with us. So you can't emulate something that you don't carry within you. We have the ultimate role model, which is Abba Father.
Mhm.
Therefore, we know the standard of what patience should look like. Can we meet it 100%? No, because we're not Christ, but we know what it's supposed to look like. And our goal is to try to have the closest possible look and just resemblance to that every single day.
Yeah.
And every day, like you said, is a clean slate.
It has to
It
be,
has to be.
because if you carry it to the next day, you're gonna have nothing left, and that's when people get hot-headed. They get upset. The temper starts.
Yeah.
So if you have a hot temper, it's probably because you got no patience.
Mhm.
So you gotta learn to give yourself that, but give it to yourself first.
Absolutely.
Right.
One thing that I love about patience is that if you look at it in like the Hebrew and that context, it means suffering. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna cost you something. Patience isn't meant to feel good. It's not meant to feel, oh, I love this part about me. No, it's the complete
Oh,
opposite.
that's so good.
It's the complete opposite.
It is.
Patience is meant to be like, I don't want to do this. This hurts, but I have to.
Like pulling teeth.
Yes, it's
like,
supposed to cost you something.
but then it becomes natural. I feel like in the beginning, it's really like that, and then after that, you realize, oh wow, I've come far.
Because you value it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's easy, then you're like, whatever. But because it costs you something, you value it, and not only do you value it, you protect it. You don't let people take it from you as easily, and that's when it becomes natural. Where patience is now just part of my everyday life. It's part of who I am. I'm a patient person, because to be able to be patient, I had to go through all of this.
Yeah.
So you're not worthy of my patience.
Mm-hmm.
I have that. That's mine.
Yeah.
You're not taking it from me. You're not making me lose it. I earned this. And when you earn patience, anybody's taking it from you.
That's so true. That's so true. Because I feel like when you're trying to, I don't know, impress somebody with how much you can handle, because I feel like that's a thing too with parents. I don't know if it's like, oh, I got this, I can handle this, and then
right.
okay,
Overachiever over here. Well, I don't. Okay, I'm still working on it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Got it
I'm
all
sorry.
together over there.
You got it all together, but I don't.
So it's just like giving yourself that moment to just allow yourself to be human, like you said, allow yourself to be human. And just I have learned that my patience has grown. I have had to pray for it, and they say always be careful what you pray for, and they always say be careful praying for patience because
it produces problems.
exactly, because you want to have patience, then your patience is going to be tested,
Yes.
right? So, but I had to pray for patience because I really had no patience. Like I was always running on empty. But I think a big part of that has to do with the fact that I'm still raising them on my own, but I
Yeah.
feel like I'm at a better stage now than what I was when they were
Yeah,
little.
you've matured, you've grown, you've evolved. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, but my patience was always at the last straw every
No.
day.
Every day. You're patient.
Girl, every
We
day.
install ourselves into
Yo.
patience. We got no energy for it.
I would be like, you don't want to test me right now. So I would lay hands real quick.
And in godly hands, just to be clear.
Yes, Dr. Gali,
No.
we ain't praying over I didn't pray over the children. You know, I may have prayed for them after, but at the moment when I was mad, I did not
No,
pray for
no
them.
time for that, no time.
No. So that's why I had to pray for God to give me patience because I was not.
But I think it's an acknowledgement of what I don't have as a mother. There's, I wouldn't even say that I have patience because I still feel like that's something that I'm still practicing and still trying to get better at.
Yeah.
That I've learned from it, that I've learned to practice it a little bit better. Yeah,
Mhm.
possibly. But one thing that I do have is I love to talk. I can converse with my kid for hours. But maybe that's one thing that I have, but that you may not have. But at the end of the day, that doesn't make me better than you because you have something that I may not still have as I've accomplished. So I think when we going back to like the whole moms and having that circle is gleaning from other moms. Okay, Stephanie has mastered the patience in her kid. How did she get that? How did she do that? What did you implement in your relationship with your kids that helped you achieve that? What did you do every single day to help you become that patient mom that you could teach me to do? And I think we lack that. There's not women tend to have that whole competition to just, I'm the better mom, I'm this, I'm that. And it's like, if we were just to learn from each other, we would have such successful moms producing successful kids.
Which is a big reason why I wanted to bring this podcast to existence because I felt like I was in a world of moms that were all in competition with each other. And it's like, why am I competing with you? I'm trying to find out how we gonna help each other. Sis. Like, can you help me help you? And then I help you help me. Like, what we gonna do here? So that's how I felt. But I felt very alone. Like in my motherhood, like, do you feel alone in that sense?
I think I have had moments where I have definitely felt alone. And probably will still have moments where I will feel alone because at the end of the day, it's hard to sit behind or to sit in front of somebody and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm lost. I'm frustrated. I'm this, I'm that. I feel like as women, we need to cultivate these relationships and nurture them to feel like I can go to Stephanie and be 100% transparent and not feel judged and not feel like I have to portray something I'm not to meet this standard that is not reality. Like at the end of the day, we are messy moms and it's okay. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I think like it's just normalizing the fact that we're figuring this out together and like I need you just as much as you need me to get through this. And especially in the Christian community, like we're up against a lot already and raising your kids in this type of generation and this type of world where like if we don't hold on to each other now,
That's so good.
the relationships that we don't build, our kids aren't gonna build. Like I heard a podcast not too long ago and it was talking about how that we should be doing discipleship with each other so that our children know how to emulate what discipleship look like. And discipleship isn't just within the four walls of the church, and it's not only Bible.
It's not only on Sundays.
And it's not. It's literally just breaking bread together. It's spending time together. It's, hey, do you want to go to the park for a walk? That is a form of discipleship. You're cultivating a relationship with somebody, and that like has stuck with me. Where I'm like, man, if my kid could see me doing that,
Mhm.
he's gonna know how to do it too. But
Exactly.
we're so afraid to let people in,
Yeah.
to see the fact that we don't have patience, to see the fact that I slipped up today and I didn't show grace to my kids.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
So-
being real.
Exactly, being real. But has there been, like, I know you touched base about it a little bit earlier, but a specific moment in your motherhood journey up till now where you felt like you you let the words fly out, you let the hands go, like, and how bad was it, and how long did it take you to learn from it, per se, and kind of like your journey in that, because I can tell you mine, but I'm interested in hearing you, because of the simple fact that you have been in a different household, like you were raised in a different household than I was. So crazy story. I was a Christian until the age of 10, Christian living through my parents, Christ's life,
Yeah.
right? And then they divorced, and then life changed.
Yeah.
So when I came back to Christ as an adult, it was my choice, right?
Not.
Right, but you were living half and half in your home.
Yeah.
Which is all
I
the
had
time.
the option to not go to church. I had the
Yeah,
option to go to church.
yeah. So like,
Um,
did you feel like you learned, like, okay, so your father was the one that didn't serve God, right?
yeah, at that time, yeah.
Do you feel like your dad was like he would hit more below the belt than mom would when they would?
In their discipline.
Yeah, and their discipline, like when the patience was like gone.
So
and
my mom, believe it or not, had the least amount of patience in the home.
That's crazy.
Yeah. When it came to us, because like I said, I'm very like my mom in certain things. She was very,
Yeah.
Your typical Spanish mom.
Yeah.
Esto es así.
This is how it goes. That's it.
Yeah. And not in a way where it was like controlling, but it was in a way where like she wanted us to be educated. She wanted us to be responsible. She wanted us to be respectful. Like
I feel like the standards are so
like
high.
we would go to people's houses, no pidan agua, no pidan nada, hasta que se lo ofrezcan. We were,
Yeah.
like little things like that. And not that that's wrong, I don't, and I'm grateful for my mom to have instilled those things in me. But when it came to certain things, yes, my mom was less patient. My dad, on the other hand, didn't have Christ in him.
Mhm.
So at the time, he didn't he didn't discipline the way my mom would discipline. Like my dad was more like, I'm not dealing with it. Let your mom deal with it. Because he had no patience. And then my mom was overwhelmed
That's crazy.
so much, so then she would lose her patience.
Well,
So you
I'm so
see,
glad
like,
you brought that up. I didn't even see it like that. Like not dealing with it.
Yeah, like
That's
he
so
would leave
good.
my mom to do the reprimanding and to do the correcting. But my dad's phenomenal dad. I love you, dad. You're the best dad in the world.
I don't know if you're gonna see this, but she loves you.
I do that. And my mom is my life. I love my mom with every ounce of my being. So grateful for my parents. But I never saw my dad as like a punishing death. My mom would be the one that would ground me, like, like I never saw that in my dad.
But that's why her patience was at an all-time low, because she had to do. So that's how girl. Well, that's how I feel as a mom, as a single mom right now. Like that's why I feel like I have to be intentional and conscious about how much patience I give, because also I want to show you patience, but at the same time I don't want to give you too much where you constantly run on that. Like there's got to be a barrier and a level of respect as well.
Yeah.
You have to be like, okay, I'm going too
towards
far.
my end. Yeah.
So on the opposite end of my childhood, my dad, both of my parents loved and served God most of their life, and then divorce happened and both of them strayed. Okay. But my whole life, my dad never had patience, even while serving God.
Which is crazy, because then it brings up other issues within yourself of how you see God.
Is so crazy. Yes, because he would always hit below the belt. So this is something I learned through counseling with my kids, that which is something I did not know, because to me as a parent, you got to do what you got to do to get your kids to respect you. That's how I was raised.
Yeah.
So that's how I was parenting.
Yeah.
So when I started counseling with my kids, I learned that they, like you said in the beginning, they're human. And just because you're a mom or you're the parent or you gave birth to them doesn't mean that you can hit below the belt. And I don't even know why I thought that it was okay, but I think it was unconsciously done
I think you
because
also did
of
what
the
you
cycle
saw.
that I exactly
Yeah.
like what I lived, that's what I was giving. So I had to learn to be different.
Yeah.
I had to learn to be
To
more.
break that cycle.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Right.
that's
It's so hard.
it's hard and it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, and that's where it costs you something.
Yes.
And that's when you learn to value then what you're able to accomplish and how you were able to achieve. And it's okay. And you know, maybe you got it today and you don't get it tomorrow.
Mhm.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You at least got it one day. Give yourself
Yeah.
credit for that and try again the next day.
Try again.
And keep trying and keep trying and
Yep.
keep trying. But like and I'm so glad you brought this up because I feel like as parents, we're so quick to use that as a crutch. Oh, well, that's how my parents were
Yep.
raised. So that's the way I was raised and that's the way it is. No, like we're doing more damage.
Mm-hmm.
Like I grew up in a beautiful home where my parents, despite my dad not serving the Lord throughout my childhood, my dad was an amazing husband. My dad was is an amazing husband, is an amazing father. And yeah, there's they have their flaws as parents, as everyone does.
Yeah.
But I, as me as a mom now, I don't ever use the way I was brought up as a crutch to justify my behaviors in my motherhood now.
That's so good.
Because at the end of the day,
people do.
a lot of people do that, and it's a choice. You could choose to continue the path and the trajectory that your parents set, for you, or you could be like, "Nah, this ends here." Like,
yeah, I mean, if it was a
great,
then
absolutely
do it. But if you were hurt by it, why would you continue?
Exactly. Like, I just feel like it's something where like then you're questioning in the future, why are my kids like this? Why are our relationships like this? Okay, well, how did you act? How did you respond?
You know, I always get nervous as a mom right now. I always get nervous asking myself, like, am I behaving the way my parents did with me, or am I kind of shifting things? So I see it was hard for me in the beginning when they were little.
Yeah.
But I see the difference now in the way we behave with each other,
Mhm.
that there is more of a freedom.
Yeah.
With the conversations. And it took some time because there were many times when I hit below the belt verbally and physically,
Yeah.
where I was like, okay, I had to go back and apologize to my kids, or it went to the point where I'm stubborn. I could be stubborn. So, so like my kids ended up having to bring this up in counseling, and I was like, well, I didn't even realize that you still remembered that because I didn't remember it.
Yeah.
So I had to apologize and remember and consciously say to myself, I can never do this to this child again, because if I do, it's going to ruin how she sees me as a mom.
Yeah.
And it's not easy because we go through daily factors that trigger us.
And I think what happens too is that we are instilling in them the expectations to have in other people. So like the lack of patience is something that they will then tolerate when they find their spouses.
Yes.
It's something that pours it out into every area of your life. The lack of tolerance on how people respond to you is something then that you allow anybody to respond to you or to talk to you however you want, because, well, that's how my mom did it, because she didn't have patience. Like, we have to teach our kids, you're going to have people react a certain way. You're going to have people lose their patience, but that doesn't make it okay.
Right.
And to advocate for yourself. To be like, hey, I understand you lost your patience. Don't talk to me like that.
Right.
And it's okay for your kids to call you out on that too. Like, I'm huge on like, I could be going crazy on my kid, and I should be okay if my kid respectfully be like, "Mommy, don't say that to me."
Don't you feel like it hits you in the head like real hard? It's like a smack from God. I feel like I'm like, oh.
Like, oh wow, wait a minute, I'm acting out.
It
brings you back to the reality where you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What am I doing? As a mom, like, what am I saying? And sometimes you have to be confronted with that truth. Like, okay, hold up, you're acting out of pocket. You and your kid called you out. And I feel like if we don't do that to ourselves as moms and show our kids that, we're building them up for the future. We have to be intentional on how we're raising our kids.
Right. And a big thing is that it just came to me now when you were talking about that, is having patience doesn't mean allowing disrespect in the home.
Absolutely.
It just means that when they mess up, or when you mess up, you know how to give yourself that space
Yeah.
to react. Like, we don't want to react negatively.
Yeah.
We want to have a good action towards whatever's happening, and it's not easy. It's not easy. And I think when you become a young mom,
It's different.
it's different. So like, I feel like I'm a whole different person now than when I was 17. Like,
too.
so it would be great to hear from somebody who becomes a mom at the age of 30.
Yeah.
Like, how's your patience at that time? So if you're listening to this and you are
Come
an
to the
older,
conversation.
yes, and you are an older mom, like with the first kid, like in your 30s. I mean, I'm not saying you're old, because we're not old. We still young. We got many years
I'm
ahead of us.
31. Wait a
I
minute.
mean, hello.
Here.
No, but I'm just saying, like, we were young moms, okay, basically. If you had your kid,
you were younger.
if you had your kid in your 30s, then you're probably a normal mom, okay?
In today's day and age,
You're a normal mom. So I just, interested in seeing how your patience is now that you're older and you've lived through more and your kids are younger. Yeah, you've experienced more. I think you're more settled in who you are.
Yeah.
I feel like your 20s, you're still trying to figure out who you are.
Have no idea who you are.
Exactly.
And then you're trying to create a human. Exactly. You're trying to figure out who they are. You're like, this is a lot. I didn't sign up for all this. Yeah.
Like, what did I do? I don't know what I did, but it was not intentional.
And then you have our culture playing a role in this. Where like, I can't ask anybody for help because ain't nobody know what they're doing either. Like, there's a lot of moving factors with motherhood and patience, and I think it's just something that if I could just be 100% honest with you, will we ever have the full like recipe towards it to get it down? Probably not. But if we could each contribute an ingredient towards that recipe, I think we would have much more patient moms.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a lot of instances where I've seen moms lose their cool in public, and it's kind of like jaw-dropping and shocking how much people allow it to be okay. But at the same time, it's like you don't want to meddle because you don't know how far they've gone already.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I had a situation with my son last year.
Last year.
Oh my God, if I tell you what happened.
365 days ago.
365 days ago, when my youngest was just trying every single button I had, every single, like, he was hitting it all. I was like, no, I'm done. But it became disrespectful. It became to the point where he was sucking all the patience out of me, but also being disrespectful.
Yeah. Took it to like another level.
Right.
Yeah.
And that came to a point where I had to say, you're done.
Yeah.
You're not, you want to be like that? You're not going to be in this house. You need to go. So I had to bring him back to reality.
Yeah.
That at the end, and he's so stubborn that he left. And I let him.
He'll come back.
And it's like, that's what I said. I was like, he'll be back. It's cold. It's cold outside. And, I was kind of, I don't want to say ridiculed, but I think I was judged in a sense by my mom. Because she was like, I don't know how you could do that. Blah, blah, blah. He's a little kid. And I say, yeah, but at the same time, I never disrespected you the way okay, I did, but I was way older than he was at that age. Yeah. And at that point, if she kicked me out, I could handle it. Yeah. So I was just like, no, I'm not gonna allow that. Like, there's a difference. There's a difference between being patient and being disrespected. And at that point,
and abusing the patience that I
he completely
like, you're not gonna disregard that I am going out of my way to be patient with you,
right?
Showing you grace after grace after grace, and you are going to continue the same behaviors. Like, see, the point of patience is to endure suffering to get results, not for it to stay the same. So my patience is producing
positive results,
right? So I'm not going to be patient for nothing. Christ isn't patient towards us for nothing. The goal is for us to serve him, to be devoted to him. So his patience is because he is an expectation of our response towards him.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how motherhood is. Our patience towards our kids is because we eventually want them to change their behaviors. Where then my patience is no longer me being patient towards you because you've already accomplished what I needed you to do. So, in regards to that, there's a huge difference.
There's a huge difference.
Constantly acting out the same way, anybody's gonna lose your patience in that sense.
Yeah, so don't allow them to abuse it either. If you are a patient mom, don't hear this message and think okay, I need to be more patient.
Yeah.
There is a level, there is a difference between having that
And you know what
patience
that's
and
called?
getting disrespected. Yeah.
It's called the B word. Boundaries.
Yeah. I was like, what we gonna say? No.
Boundaries. It
Yes.
is okay to have boundaries with your kids.
Yes. Yes.
Especially your older, because I'm not there yet. I look forward to it.
It's a different level.
Yeah.
It's a different level. I remember how my patients worked when they were in that age
Yeah.
and how my patience is now. And honestly, if I have any word of advice, which I really don't like to give advice because I know that I am not. I am not like if I'm making this podcast is so you can learn from me because I'm crazy, okay? So it's just to be so real with them.
Yeah.
Because as they get older, they don't want to see the mom that you want to show them. They want to see the person you are.
Yeah.
Like the real
The
you.
Yeah.
The real you. So you have to be honest with them and tell them you just done did it. Like we're gonna have this conversation because what you did today was
Yeah.
like we're not gonna do this again. And this is it's not you lashing out on them and you expecting them to know why.
Why? No, it's you.
Because they're still learning. Even though they're teenagers, they're still learning. So today, oh, this is so good. But today, this is it. Like I think we went over, but it's okay. This conversation was good. I'm gonna have to bring her back.
It was supposed to be 30 minutes.
No, it wasn't. I think we're at 9 o'clock already. It's crazy. Okay, anyways. But today was another like example because today I had a meeting set up with one of my kids at the high school, the vice principal and the academic counselor,
Mhm.
and I didn't tell him nothing. And I dropped
You dropped into this.
dropped him off, and I was like, "Have a good day," and I parked the car. Parked the car and I walked in and he's sitting in the office and I can just tell by his face that he wants to throw
He
something
didn't
at
want
me.
to do it himself.
He wanted to throw something at me. He was like, and it took everything because I'm so open and goofy with my kids. It took everything within me not to laugh.
Gotcha.
I know. But when he came home today, I was so real with him. I was like, "Are you mad?" Just like that.
See?
Like I didn't say, oh well, you can't be like this because blah blah blah. Like you gotta acknowledge their feelings too. So I said, are you mad at me? I said, I'm so sorry, but I knew that if I would tell you that you wouldn't have gone to school
It
today.
would have been a whole different
It would have been a whole different. And he was like, oh, you don't even know. I was so mad. He went back and
acknowledge.
but I acknowledged exactly. So like, you know, it's a different level. Is like that honesty. You have to have honesty with them, especially when you're about to lose your cool. Be honest with them. Be like, not right now. Not right now. If you keep going, I'm gonna lose it.
And respect them when they say
Yes,
the same to you. Like, Mom, I don't want to talk to you right now.
Don't
I don't want
overstep their boundaries if you don't want them to overstep yours.
That's
Because it will be reciprocated,
Absolutely.
whether you like it or not.
And then they're gonna do that to other people, where
Yeah.
they won't respect other people's boundaries and
Yeah.
other people's patience. And
Yeah.
that's a reflection as you as a mother at the end of the day. Your kids are literally your
Yeah.
like a result of what you teach
Of
them.
how you raise them. And it could be a result in both ways. It could be a result like you raise them so like with everything, so they have no respect, right?
Yeah.
Because you see that too. They think
Yeah.
everything's due to them.
Yeah.
And it could be where you gave them nothing, so they appreciate everything. So having that healthy balance, like balance is so necessary.
And
Yeah, this conversation was so good.
it was great.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was our first.
We were real honest as we could possibly be.
Without giving names, right?
I hope that Steph adds all the bloopers because there's plenty of them. But yeah,
I will. I'll give you something fun.
a little bit.
Yeah, but if you enjoyed this episode, show some love, comment, tell us about your experience with your kids and how you've extended your patience out to them or how you grew from it, how you learned from it. Like we want to hear from you.
Yeah. Tell us your story.
Yes. And I will have Becky back because I just love her so much.
I'll be more than happy to come back. Congrats to Steph on her first video.
I know. Oh my gosh, this took forever because we were like, oh my god, am I really gonna do this?
It was great. Thanks
Yes.
for having me.
Thank you.
Honestly,
It's
didn't
good
know what to
having you.
expect. This is my first podcast ever. So cool.
It's a conversation with hitting record. No.
But yeah, it was awesome. And like Steph said, I pray that this encourages you, that you find yourself motivated, inspired, with hope. Just knowing that at the end of the day, you're not alone in this journey. And that there is beauty in motherhood. You just have to look to the lens of Christ and look at it that way. You are more than capable of being a great mother. You are a great mother.
Yes.
And if you surrender to Christ, most importantly, you'll be able to accomplish all things that you have before you.
And if you're not a believer and you're listening to this, I hope that it touched you and that you still received from it. And if there's any questions that you may have, just address Becky on the comments. She's got you.
You could talk to Steph too.
I don't know. You're going to get the real world relevant version. But no, seriously. Come at us with your questions. That's what we're here for. This is a community and we're here to do this together. All right.
We'll see you on the next one.
Hey. Thank you.